Welcome to our deep dive on Social Security. It's something that affects pretty much all of us, but it can be a bit, well, confusing.
It really is fascinating how much it kind of weaves into everything, the economy, our social fabric, even personal finances.
Yeah, for sure. For instance, did you know it's not only for retirees?
Yeah, that's right. It helps people with disabilities and families if they've lost someone who was supporting them financially.
Okay, so let's go way back to the beginning. It started during the Great Depression, right?
Yeah, in 1935, think about the U.S. then, millions of people were really struggling, especially older Americans, and tons of them had lost everything they had saved.
So that's where President Roosevelt came in with Social Security. It wasn't meant to be like a handout, though, right? It was more like a group effort.
Right. President Roosevelt saw it as social insurance. So people contribute while they're working and get help when they need it. It's something you earn, not just a freebie.
So how do the contributions actually work?
Basically, it comes down to payroll taxes. When you're working, a part of what you earn goes straight into the Social Security fund. And your employer puts in the same amount, too.
So is it like a personal savings account?
No, not really. It's pay as you go. So what people are paying in now is used to pay the benefits to current retirees and others who are getting those payments.
So it's not meant to replace your entire income, right? It's more like a base level of support.
Yeah, think of it more like a safety net, not a hammock.
Okay, so talking about support, when can you start getting those benefits and how much should people expect?
You can start as early as 62, but here's the thing, your benefits will be lower permanently. The full retirement age, when you get the full 100%, has been going up. For people born in 1960 or later, it's 67.
So full retirement being 65 is a myth.
Totally. And get this, you can actually wait until 70 to start taking benefits. Each year you wait, the amount goes up. Kind of encourages people to be patient.
Makes sense if you're healthy and can keep working. What about the average amount per month? Any idea?
On average, it's about $1,500. But it can be very different depending on how much you made over your life and when you start claiming. It could be anywhere from like $800 to $3,000.
Wow, big difference.
Yeah.
So knowing the system is super important. Okay, let's talk about the big one. The myth that Social Security
Makes sense if you're healthy.
Is there any truth to that?
It's a myth for sure, but we got to be realistic. It has some funding challenges, but it's not going bankrupt. As long as people keep working and paying into it, it'll keep giving benefits.
I've heard about a problem with the trust fund. What's up with that?
That fund is basically extra money built up from years of taxes being higher than the benefits paid out. It's projected that it could run out by 2034.
So that means the taxes coming in would only cover about 80% of what's supposed to be paid. That's a pretty big cut.
It is a concern. But remember, Congress can step in and do something before it gets to that point.
What could they do?
They have a few options. They could raise the payroll tax, so you and your employer would put in a bit more. Or they could increase the full retirement age again. That would change when people can get the full benefits. Or they could find some new ways to get money for the program.
Sounds like those could be kind of controversial.
Yeah, they are. That's why it's so important to have these conversations. If you understand what's going on, you can be part of the solution and speak up for what you think is best.
It's good to know we have a say in something so important. Okay, let's talk about other countries. How do their systems stack up against ours?
This is where it gets really interesting. It's
It
not
gets to
just
that
a
point.
US thing. Lots of countries have systems, and some are way more generous.
Tell me more. Which ones stand out?
Well, Sweden always gets a lot of attention because their social safety net is really strong. It's a mix of individual accounts and social insurance, and they pay higher taxes, which shows that taking care of each other is important to them. Canada also has a good system. They have universal benefits and pensions that depend on how much you earned.
So different approaches show different priorities when it comes to taking care of people. Makes you wonder what we'd be willing to give up to have an even stronger safety net.
That's a good question. Before we get too deep into what other countries are doing, we should talk about age discrimination in the workplace. It can affect Social Security, too.
That's right. If someone is forced to retire early, it cuts their career short, and that means less money going into Social Security, and it hurts their overall finances.
Exactly. And in a lot of places, there aren't strong laws to protect people from age discrimination. So we need to be aware of it and push for changes.
So let's get practical. What's it like living on Social Security? It's supposed to be extra income, but for a lot of people, it's all they have. What are some important things to know?
One thing to watch out for is what they call the tax torpedo. Depending on how much money you're making overall, you might have to pay taxes on some of your benefits.
Really? We pay taxes on those benefits?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it depends on how much you're getting from everything, wages, pensions, investments. If it's over a certain amount, part of your benefits can be taxed.
Sounds like you need to plan carefully to keep those taxes as low as possible.
Absolutely. Especially in some states that tax those benefits on top of federal taxes. Working with a financial advisor can help you figure it all out.
Seems like a lot to keep track of.
It is. But if you know the details, you can make smart choices and be in control of your money.
This has been eye-opening. We've learned about where Social Security came from, how it works, some of the challenges, even a bit about how other countries do it.
And the main thing is that if you understand these things, you can actually have a voice in shaping what happens to Social Security in the future.
It's encouraging to know we have a say in something this important. Something else I found interesting in the research. It seems Medicare premiums can change based on how much money you make.
You're talking about IRAA. It stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. Basically, it means if you make more money, you pay more for Medicare.
Wages, pensions.
Something to keep in mind for healthcare costs in retirement.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive on Social Security origins, how it works, some of the issues, and even how other countries approach it.
And we've talked about how important it is to understand these things so you can be involved in shaping what happens to this really important program.
It's been fascinating so far. Before we move on, I want to go back to the idea of social responsibility. We talked about Social Security being like a promise we make to each other. It seems like even small things can make a difference.
Totally. It's about getting why the system matters, being kind to those who might be struggling, and realizing how important it is to save and plan for the future. Social Security isn't just numbers and rules. It's about people values and sharing responsibility.
Powerful thought. I think that's a good place to take a break. We'll pick up the conversation in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive on Social Security.
So we've covered a lot, the history, how it works, even how other countries handle things.
Yeah.
But I really want to get into how Social Security actually affects people's lives. Any stories come to mind?
Oh, absolutely. It's more than just some policy or system. It's a lifeline for tons of Americans. Like, take Sarah, for example. She worked hard her whole life, and when she retired, Social Security gave her the money she needed to live comfortably and enjoy her golden years.
So she could keep her independence and dignity.
Exactly. And then there's Alex. He got sick unexpectedly and couldn't work. Social Security was there to help him through that tough time.
Those stories really show how powerful it is as a safety net. It gives people security no matter what life throws at them.
It really does. It adapts and responds to all sorts of needs. So people aren't left alone to struggle.
Speaking of adapting, we talked about how Social Security might change in the future. What could those changes look like?
Well, one thing is how we pay into the system. More people are freelancing or working in the gig economy these days. So we might need to find ways to make sure everyone contributes fairly no matter how they work.
Kind of like updating the safety net to make sure it catches everyone.
Exactly. We'll probably see some new ways of managing the program, too. Using technology to make it more efficient and make sure people get their benefits. And of course, we'll need to keep talking about how to keep it financially stable in the long run, especially as the population changes. It's a balancing act to make sure contributions and benefits work out.
It's a balance between what individuals are responsible for and what we do as a society to support each other. It shows how we choose to take care of each other.
You said it. Now let's shift gears a bit and tackle some of those myths about Social Security.
Oh yeah, there are so many of them. It's hard to know what's true and what's not.
You're telling me? We already talked about the big ones, like it going broke or being just for older people. But what about the one that says it's just a free handout? Or that undocumented immigrants are using up all the money?
I've heard those a lot. It's easy to believe them even when the facts say otherwise.
It just shows how important it is to get the facts and really think about what you hear. Social Security is something you earn, not a handout. And everyone who works and pays in deserves to benefit. And remember we talked about how undocumented immigrants actually contribute to the system but can't get anything back?
It's crazy how those myths stick around even when there's proof they're wrong.
It all comes back to finding reliable sources and having real conversations about these complicated issues.
When we started this deep dive, I was kind of overwhelmed by how complicated Social Security is. But breaking it all down like this makes it so much clearer.
That's what knowledge does. It takes away the fear and uncertainty and gives you understanding and the power to do something.
It's making me see it as more than just a government program. It's a reflection of our values as a society, our promise to take care of each other.
I couldn't agree more. It shows that we believe in shared responsibility in making sure everyone can live with dignity and security no matter how old they are or what their situation is.
It's a good reminder that we're all in this together. Something I found really interesting is that this isn't just a national thing. It's a global concept.
You got it. The idea of a social safety net to help people when times are tough exists in countries all over the world.
And they're all pretty different, right?
Oh, yeah. There's so much variety in how countries do it. Some, like the Scandinavian countries, are known for taking really good care of their people with lots of social benefits. Others have more specific programs that focus on certain groups or needs.
It's amazing how different cultures and political ideas shape those approaches. Some countries have systems where everyone has their own individual retirement account, while others do the pay-as-you-go thing like us.
Exactly. It all comes down to what they value and what they prioritize, how they see the roles of the government and individual responsibility.
Makes you wonder what we can learn from each other. What are some of the best ideas out there that we could use to make our system better?
That's the beauty of comparing different systems. It challenges what we think we know, pushes us to be creative, and helps us find solutions that work and are fair for everyone.
Kind of like a worldwide brainstorming session, sharing ideas to make things better for everybody.
Exactly. And it reminds us that this isn't just a U.S. issue. It's a global conversation about fairness, economic security, and how to take care of each other.
So before we move on, what can our listeners do to be more informed and get involved with Social Security?
Great question. The first thing is to check out the Social Security Administration's website. It's packed with info, everything from how the program works to estimates of what you might get.
Like having the experts right there at your fingertips.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to call them if you have questions or need help. They have people there who can walk you through it.
So if something's not clear, just ask. It's a complicated system, and it's okay to need help.
Absolutely. Another important thing is to start planning early. Don't wait till you're about to retire to think about your strategy. The sooner you start learning about it, the better choices you can make.
Like planting seeds for your financial future. Give them time to grow.
Exactly. Like we talked about, those choices can really make a difference later in life. Take charge of your Social Security journey, learn all you can, and be in control of your financial future.
Good advice. But it's not just about individual benefits, right?
You're right. It's about all of us working together to make sure everyone has a chance to live a good life.
Makes this whole topic even more meaningful.
It does. It's not just about boring policies. It's about our values, about how we choose to take care of each other as society.
It's realizing that we're all connected, that our well-being depends on each other.
Exactly. That's what makes Social Security so much more than just a program. It shows our humanity, our compassion, and our hope for a better future for everyone.
Now, before we get to the last part of our deep dive, I want to bring up something that might seem kind of random, but it actually connects to what we've been talking about.
Okay, I'm listening.
Remember those lists of places where people could live comfortably even on a fixed income?
Yeah, those were interesting. They showed how much cost of living can affect your finances.
Exactly. It made me realize how important it is to choose the right place to live if you want to make the most of your Social Security money.
It's super important, especially if that's your main source of income. We saw how states like Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Arkansas were really affordable, and California, New York, and Hawaii were the most expensive.
And it's not just comparing states. Even within a state, the cost of living can be way different between cities and rural areas.
That's true. So you have to think about those regional differences, too. Your money might go a lot further in a small town than in a big city.
It's like having a secret weapon. You can make your Social Security benefits last longer by choosing the right place to live.
Exactly. It shows how important it is to plan your finances carefully. Think about your income, your expenses, your lifestyle, and where you want to live.
So it's about finding that perfect spot where you can be comfortable financially and live a good life.
Exactly. You got to look at the big picture and consider all the pieces.
Okay, I think we've got a good handle on how Social Security works around the world and how where you live can affect your finances. Now I'm ready to move on to the last part of our deep dive. We'll talk about some practical tips and strategies to help you get the most out of your benefits.
Sounds good to me. Let's keep making Social Security easier to understand and help our listeners make smart choices.
So we've gone through a ton of information about Social Security, where it came from, how it works, stories from real people, even how other countries do it. Now let's talk about how you can actually make the most of your benefits.
That's a perfect way to wrap things up. It's all about putting you in the driver's seat of your financial future.
So where do we start? What's the most important thing to know?
You got to understand your full retirement age. They call it FRA for short. It's the age you can start getting 100% of the benefits you've earned. And it's not the same for everyone. It depends on what year you were born.
We talked about how starting early at 62 means you get less and waiting until 70 means you get more.
Mm-hmm.
It's like finding that sweet spot that can really make a difference in how much money you have over your lifetime.
Exactly. And if you're married, when you start claiming benefits, affects your spouse too. So you got to think about both of you.
I heard that sometimes spouses can get benefits based on their partner's work history, even if they didn't work enough themselves to qualify.
That's right. There are spousal benefits, survivor benefits, even benefits for divorced spouses. It can get kind of complicated. So talking to the Social Security Administration or a financial advisor is a good idea. They can help you figure out what works best for you.
Getting personalized advice is key. There's no magic formula that works for everyone when it comes to Social Security.
You got it. Everyone's situation is different, and their plan should be too. Now, something that often trips people up is the earnings test.
Yeah, we mentioned it before, but let's dive in a little deeper.
So the earnings test is for people who start taking benefits before their full retirement age but are still working. If you make more than a certain amount, your benefits get reduced for a while.
So you're basically choosing less money now for more money later.
Exactly. But the good news is that reduction isn't forever. Once you hit your full retirement age, the earnings test doesn't matter anymore. And they'll adjust your benefits to include the money they held back.
Kind of like a delayed gratification thing. You get all the money you're supposed to eventually, even if you worked and made money before reaching your full retirement age.
Exactly. Knowing how these rules work is super important for making smart choices about working and taking benefits.
Now I want to talk about how Social Security fits into planning for what happens after you're gone.
A lot of people don't think about it, but it's really important, especially if you want to make sure your loved ones are taken care of.
Tell me more. I'm all ears.
So we know Social Security gives you income when you retire, but it also has benefits for family members if the person who is working passes away. Their spouse, kids, maybe even dependent parents could get some of those benefits.
Like a built-in insurance policy to help your family when they need it most.
Exactly. It's important to know who qualifies and how to apply for those benefits.
Another reason to plan ahead and do your research.
You got it. It's all about making sure your loved ones are protected both financially and emotionally if something happens to you.
It's good to know that Social Security can give you peace of mind, knowing your family will be okay.
It's a testament to how important this program is and how it's helped generations of Americans.
We've talked about so much in this deep dive. The history, the rules, stories from people's lives, how other countries do it, even planning for what happens after you're gone. It's been an incredible journey.
It really has. Hopefully our listeners are walking away feeling more informed and confident about navigating Social Security.
I know. I went from feeling kind of overwhelmed to actually understanding and even appreciating this complicated but super important program.
That's what we were hoping for. When you understand something, you have the power to make good decisions. Advocate for yourself and build a better future for you and your family.
It's a great reminder that Social Security isn't just some government program. It shows what we value as a society, how we're committed to each other, and how we believe in supporting everyone through good times and bad.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Ooh, I love a good challenge.
What is it? Share what you've learned. Tell your friends, your family, your coworkers. Help them understand how important Social Security is. Bust those myths and get them engaged.
Like passing the torch, spreading knowledge and empowerment.
Exactly. Social Security isn't just about what you get as an individual. It's about all of us working together to make sure this essential program keeps helping people for generations to come.
That's something we can all be a part of.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. May you navigate Social Security with confidence, understanding, and a sense of shared responsibility.
Keep diving deep, everyone.